Johnstown is a small working-class town, not the kind of place you'd expect to find an anti-war rally.
It's a war we should have never ever been in.
I'm not for the Iraq war, I'm for the war on terror, but we took a wrong turn in Iraq, and it's sad for our kids, and, you know, we just got to find a way out of there.
Here in a key swing state like Pennsylvania, this sentiment translates directly into support for the local congressman's re-election.
Hi, Congressman. Hey, good to see you. Good to see you.
A 20-year veteran of Congress who served in Vietnam, John Murtha has always been known as a military hawk within the Democratic Party.
Yeah, rock the boat. Okay, I like that.
So people sat up and listened when this conservative military man publicly called for American troops to be brought home from Iraq.
Our troops, our sacred troops are caught in the middle of the Civil War, and we're going to let them settle it themselves. We cannot do it.
Like the Labour Party in Australia, the Democrats have seen the polls that show solid majorities in both countries opposed to the war. Iraq is now their key ammunition against the Republicans this election.
There's a lot of people speaking out this year. You know, I mean, President Bush's popularity has gone down in the tank, so, you know, even Republicans don't like the war. So, you know, Murtha was just one of the first public figures to speak out.
Listen, can I get a picture of you for after Downing Street? Thank you. I'm a registered Republican.
But you support Murtha and his stance on the war?
Absolutely. That answer your question?
Murtha's made me pretty much switch to being a Democrat.
How you doing over there, huh? Hey, good. Nice to see you. All the close seats will be decided by this particular issue. No question about it.
Yet if you read the statements he made when he was on the aircraft carrier, they were pretty belligerent.
In the outer suburbs of Philadelphia, Republican Curt Weldon is desperately trying to hold on to his seat against Democrat challenger Joe Sestak.
He resigned his position before the war started.
A senior Republican, Weldon is vice chair of the Armed Services Committee. So as the candidates debate at the local press club, it's remarkable to see him on the defensive.
We shouldn't cut and run. What we should do is allow the decision not to be made by Dick Cheney or Don Rumsfeld.
Mr. Sestak, the recent Keystone poll of voters in the 7th District indicated 31%, the largest portion, believe Iraq is the most important issue in this race.
On the panel at the debate is local newspaper editor Phil Herron. He thinks it's extraordinary that Weldon is in such a tight race.
It is clear that he is in a race unlike any of the others he's had. He has been our congressman here in this district since 1986, has won re-election 10 times, and almost always by an overwhelming majority. So everyone was a little bit taken aback when the poll came out, the first independent poll came out last week, and showed literally the race is almost a dead heat.
And then the precursor combat operations of Iraq.
Democrat challenger Joe Sestak knows which issue has brought him into such close contention.
I never would have voted for this war into Iraq as Congressman Weldon did. Nor would I continue to support President Bush every step of the way with every vote on this Iraqi policy that has no exit strategy.
You're bringing back hope, sir.
Thank you very much.
And like it or not, Curt Weldon, a longtime incumbent here in the 7th District, has been linked with the president and his policies, and that has become something almost of a referendum on Iraq.
Like many Democrats in tight races, Sestak's campaign strategy has focused on linking Weldon as close to President Bush as possible.
He votes with George Bush 9 out of 10 times and voted to raise his own pay by $64,000.
I'm Joe Sestak, and I authorize this message.
I'm Sandra Becca, or Sandy, I don't know how she does.
Smile. Thank you, and enjoy the morning.
While the president is polling in the 30s, Laura Bush's approval ratings are in the 80s. So Curt Weldon has made an astute political decision to campaign with the First Lady.
Well, she's scheduled to be here at 9:30, okay?
Local radio reporter David Madden believes Weldon is trying to distance himself from President Bush.
Mr. Bush may be seen more as a liability in a very close race.
Please join me in welcoming our First Lady, the world's First Lady, Laura Bush.
Congressman Weldon is especially supportive of young people with disabilities. But keeping young Pennsylvanians safe also requires protecting them from foreign threats by defeating terrorism and increasing liberty abroad.
The First Lady has a more upbeat spin on the war in Iraq.
And thanks to our troops, the Iraqi people are now free from the oppression of Saddam Hussein. And
so keen is Curt Weldon to distance himself from the president's Iraq policy that he's come up with his own troop withdrawal plan.
He would normally be, I'll do whatever the president wants me to do on this, but now he's sounding a more middle-of-the-road tone, which is to say, I want the generals on the ground to make the call when we leave, rather than a politician sitting in an armchair.
Great community.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
See all the sheiks that came out today?
They're going door to door. They're going to give you all their votes. Yeah.
Weldon's plan is certainly out of character. He's been known as a reliable Bush supporter, who just 4 months ago still maintained there could be weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, and even offered to go look for them himself.
You haven't always been for troop withdrawal. Why did you feel the need to come up with this plan?
Well, I've always been for bringing our troops out, but the question is under what circumstances and to give the American people a better understanding. So a year ago,
why was it important? Why is it important now?
Well, it's just because I think the president has not articulated what the criteria for withdrawal is, and I gave him this plan a year ago to basically let the American people know that there is a plan. But make no mistake about it, folks. While I support our troops and will go to the end for them, my ultimate responsibility in Washington is to avoid war.
On the campaign trail again that afternoon, Weldon is sounding more like an anti-war Democrat.
War is a symbol of diplomatic failure, and I use my voice and my energy to avoid having America's sons and daughters go into harm's way.
But across the road, these Joe Sestak supporters aren't buying this sudden change of heart.
He had no criticism of the war until this summer, and he's simply been making it up because he's worried about losing the election. So if you see his signs, you see it says independent. Curt Weldon's never been independent of the Republican right wing of the party in his life. If he wins, he'll go right back to supporting everything in the Republican ticket from start to finish. It's completely cynical and opportunistic.
Thank you.
The Republicans are so worried by this tight race in Pennsylvania, they've also rolled out the popular Senator John McCain.
And we have to prevail. And I know it's tough, and I know it's hard, and we've made mistakes, and mistakes have been made. And we should have told the American people much more clearly how long and hard and tough this struggle is and what it was going to be. But we are there now. We are there now.
I admire you so much. I just like to know, could I please get a picture with you?
Thanks for serving.
Thank you too. Welcome home, Senator.
How's the campaigning going so far?
Fine, thanks.
Are you worried about the effect the war is going to have on this election?
I'm worried about a lot of things. we got some tough races, but I think we can win.
Thank you.
Okay?
Thanks.
And while some Republicans are doing backflips to appear less gung-ho about the war, the Democrats are trying their hardest to appear tough. This campaign event for Weldon's challenger, Joe Sestak, is being held on the grounds of the local military academy. There's good reason why Sestak, a former Navy admiral, was picked to challenge in this tight race.
I believe that he brings military credibility to the Democrats, and I think that's very important.
It's a big effort to turn their image around, and the party is pulling out all the big names to help out.
We have nine Iraq War veterans running for Congress as Democrats this year.
Bill Clinton is still a huge drawcard, and he challenges head-on the Republican charge that his party is soft on security.
You've heard their campaign. Their basic campaign is, okay, we messed up Katrina, we messed up Iraq, we got a big deficit, but you still got to vote for us because those Democrats won't protect you and there'll be a terrorist on every street corner. You know, they're nice people. I'm not saying they're not patriotic, but they're just spineless and they won't stand up for you and they'll all lay down. Now, if you I think it's a pretty hard sell against the guy that spent 31 years in the Navy and was on the National Security Council and was an admiral. You know,
Clinton still knows how to energize the party faithful.
If people are afraid and take flight into that other world, we lose. If they stay in the reality-based world, he wins. And you win, and your children win. Go make it happen. God bless you.
What is different about the current set of warnings?
President Bush rejects the notion that he's running a scare campaign.
I understand that some are saying, well, he's just trying to scare us. My job is to look at the intelligence and to remind, and I'm going to tell you that there's an enemy out there that would like to do harm again to the United States because we're in a war.
And while the president is doing his best to frame the election around national security, another issue threatens support in his core constituency. Christian conservatives were shocked when Republican Congressman Mark Foley was forced to resign after sending suggestive emails to young male pages at Congress.
Who would have predicted that a paper trail of email would expose a congressman having internet sex with a slew of capital pages, that the trail of cover-up would find its way to the top, causing this 2006 political pinball machine to all of a sudden flash tilt.
The small towns of rural Pennsylvania are home to some of these Christian conservative voters.
Someone to hear your prayers, someone who cares.
One of the most powerful Republicans, Senator Rick Santorum, has comfortably held this seat since 1995. But this year he's in trouble.
Rick Santorum has earned the support of small business for his re-election campaign. Unlike some politicians,
and no event is too small when you're behind in the polls.
And a small business, and how a one-size-fits-all economy.
Santorum now finds himself addressing a handful of small businessmen in a desperate attempt to win his suddenly tight race.
Turn the microphone over to our U.S. Senator Rick Santorum. Rick?
Thank you, Lou. I appreciate that. It's a great pleasure for me to be here this morning. I want to thank you.
But the local press doesn't want to know about the Builders Association endorsement. They want to know about the new threat posed by a nuclear-armed North Korea.
We are being faced now with a situation that I think could lead to a series of events that really could shake the foundation of the security of the world.
It's possible the North Korean crisis, by focusing voters back on national security, will work to the Republicans' advantage. especially as that axis of evil seems to keep on expanding.
This test by North Korea, that issue has even heightened more about how we're going to defend ourselves against this growing storm of evil, as the president referred to them as the axis of evil of North Korea, Iran, Venezuela, Cuba, Syria.
What impact would having a democratically controlled House have on the Iraq War? What would it do?
I think you'd see a push by the Democrats to try to pull our troops back as quickly as possible, irrespective of whether that results in a victory over the enemy that's before us. And I think it could lead us to, in my opinion, cataclysmic consequences of not defeating the enemy before the enemy gets to the point where they become a more serious threat than they are today.
To concentrate voters' minds on the enemy, Republicans have released this new campaign ad, featuring Osama bin Laden and Al-Qaeda threatening the United States.
To get on the other side. Sure. Sure. Right. There you go.
The Republicans can only hope that their bigger war chest for television advertising will give them the last-minute edge.
This is great. You guys have any members here in Pennsylvania?
Oh, absolutely. Heard of actually.
How many?
It's one of our joint ones. Tens of thousands.
Tens of thousands. That's good. That's good. Come on, Jack. Why don't you get the picture? Lou, come on.
But the Iraq War, the defining issue of Bush's presidency, is clearly worrying even the party's keenest supporters.
I think they just need to have a more direct appearance that they know what they're going to do and that there's some plans in the making. Right now, I think a lot of the public feels unsure as to does anybody really know what they're doing? Do they have a plan at all?
Because evidence and argument are the enemies of ideology.
If the current polls are right, the Democrats stand a good chance of winning the House, and possibly the Senate too. This would radically change the dynamic of American politics and make the last 2 years of Bush's presidency most interesting indeed.
So I think